The world thinks trillionaires are built by luck, by genius, by being born into the right family. They're wrong, because every trillion-dollar empire starts with something much smaller, a decision. Now imagine this. Tonight you go to sleep as an ordinary 20-year-old. Tomorrow morning, nothing looks different. Your apartment is still tiny. Your student loan still exists. Your bank account still says $2,814. No investors, no famous last name, no billionaire mentor waiting to discover you. Just one ordinary life and one extraordinary future. Because 35 years from today, history books will describe you using a sentence that has never belonged to anyone before. The next trillionaire after Elon Musk. But you don't know that yet. All you know is that you're tired. Tired of watching everyone chase shortcuts. Tired of seeing people spend years trying to look rich instead of becoming rich. That frustration changes everything. Instead of asking, how do I make more money? You ask something almost nobody your age asks. How does money actually get created? That question becomes an obsession. You stop scrolling social media before bed. Instead, you read annual reports. You study the companies that quietly run the world. Electric grids, shipping networks, semiconductor manufacturers, cloud infrastructure. The businesses nobody posts about, but everyone depends on. Slowly a pattern appears. The richest companies don't sell expensive things. They become impossible to replace. Google isn't valuable because of search. It's valuable because billions rely on it every day. Amazon isn't valuable because of shopping. It's valuable because millions of businesses can't function without its infrastructure. Every great fortune follows the same invisible rule. Become useful enough, and the world compounds your value. That realization changes your life. The next morning, you build your first rule. Every dollar must have a job. Rent, food, learning, investing, nothing else. Every unnecessary purchase now has a hidden price. Not today's price, tomorrow's. $100 spent today could become $5,000 later. You begin investing automatically. Every paycheck. No excuses. Some months the market falls. Your friends panic. You quietly buy more. Because you've finally understood something Wall Street rarely tells beginners. Markets reward patience far more often than intelligence. Years pass. Your portfolio grows. Not dramatically, just enough to prove the system works. Then something unexpected happens. Your investments stop being the most valuable thing you're building. Your mind does. You become obsessed with leverage. Not financial leverage, human leverage. The average employee can only earn more by working more hours. But software can work while its creator sleeps. Systems never ask for overtime. So a new question appears. What business could help millions without hiring millions? You spend an entire year studying. Industries, healthcare, construction, agriculture, energy, finance, not looking for exciting ideas, but for expensive problems. Because problems are markets in disguise. Eventually, one answer keeps appearing. Energy. Not power generation. Energy management. AI is exploding. Electric vehicles are multiplying. Data centers consume more electricity every year, but the systems running them still think like it's 1998. The future isn't running out of intelligence. It's running out of infrastructure. That's when you stop looking for your next investment and start designing your first company. Your first prototype is terrible. It crashes constantly. Nobody wants it, which is perfect. Because failure finally becomes useful. Every bug teaches you something. While your friends spend weekends partying, you spend yours interviewing factory managers and grid operators. One engineer tells you something that sticks forever. We don't need smarter machines, we need smarter decisions. That sentence becomes your mission, not to build another AI company, but to build the intelligence layer every AI company will eventually depend on. You quit your job. Everyone thinks you're crazy. Your parents don't yell. They just ask, "Are you sure?" You're not. But certainty has never built anything extraordinary. So you begin. 9 months pass. No customers. No funding. No salary. You survive on savings. One afternoon, an investor finally agrees to meet. The meeting lasts 12 minutes. His answer is immediate. Interesting technology. Too early. Come back when someone else proves people want it. You sit on a bench and stare at traffic for nearly an hour. For the first time, you think about quitting. Not because you failed, but because you're exhausted. Building something nobody understands feels incredibly lonely. That night, you open your brokerage account. Years of investing, countless skipped vacations, Thousands of disciplined decisions have quietly become $247,000. Enough for a down payment, enough to stop worrying. You hover over the sell button. This isn't really an investment decision, it's an identity decision. Investor or builder, safety or possibility. The next morning, you sell almost everything. Not because you're gambling, because you've spent 3 years preparing for this exact moment. This isn't blind risk, it's calculated conviction. The next 6 months become the hardest of your life. You sleep in the office, eat cheap meals, write code until sunrise, then rewrite it again. Finally, one small regional utility company agrees to test your software. Not because they believe in your vision, but because their current system keeps failing. The pilot is tiny. 3 towns. No headlines. Just real people whose lights stay on a little more often. Quietly, your software begins making thousands of invisible decisions every second. Nobody notices, except the companies paying attention. Within months, another utility signs. Then a manufacturer. Then an AI data center. You aren't selling software anymore. You're becoming infrastructure, the kind of business people forget exists until it stops working. Revenue arrives faster than expenses. The same investors who once said, "too early," now say, "we've always believed in your vision." You remember the bench outside that 12-minute meeting. Success has a strange way of rewriting history. 3 years later, your company reaches a valuation of $18 billion. The media calls you the fastest rising entrepreneur of the decade. Overnight success. You almost laugh. Because they missed the previous 6 years of rejected pitches and sleepless nights. Governments begin requesting meetings. Entire cities now run partly on your systems. One morning, your assistant walks in, nervous. There are 3 people waiting. The CEO of the world's biggest AI company, a government energy minister, and the chairman of the largest investment fund on Earth. All 3 want the same thing. Your company. You suddenly realize, and with that realization comes a buyout offer worth $58 billion. Enough to make your family wealthy forever. Enough to disappear from public life. You stare at the number, then at the window overlooking the city. Now the world is asking whether you're willing to let it go. Everyone tells you to take the deal. Nobody says no to $58 billion. Even your closest friends think refusing would be insane. For days, you barely sleep, not because you're afraid of losing the money, but because you're afraid of losing something else, the future. One night, you drive back to your old apartment, the same cracked sidewalks. You remember the 20-year-old who once counted every dollar before buying dinner. Back then, you promised yourself one thing. Don't build a company to become rich. Build something the world genuinely needs. The next morning, you reject the offer. Wall Street explodes. Investors call it arrogant, but one sentence explains everything. If I sell today, I become wealthy. If I keep building, the world becomes stronger. The consequences arrive immediately. A competitor slashes prices and expands into 23 countries. Then a massive cyber attack targets your network, interrupting millions of energy decisions. News channels question whether AI should control critical infrastructure. Your stock collapses, 61%. On paper, you lose over $400 billion in less than 4 months. Your board wants immediate layoffs. Even your own executives begin questioning your leadership. That evening, alone in your office, you open the first notebook you ever bought. On the very first page, 6 words. Solve problems bigger than yourself. Nothing about stock prices, just value. You realize you'd started measuring success using the market's scoreboard instead of your own mission. The next morning, everything changes. You don't cut research, you double it. Instead of chasing quarterly earnings, you chase decade-long breakthroughs. Many shareholders leave. The ones who stay understand exactly what you're building, not another technology company and a civilization company. 5 years later, the gamble pays off. Your engineers unveil a fully autonomous global infrastructure intelligence network. Electricity, water, transportation, factories, data centers, all communicating in real time. Cities waste less energy. Hospitals never lose power. The average person never notices. And that's exactly the point. The greatest infrastructure feels invisible. Then comes the next expansion. Fresh water, climate adaptation, disaster prediction, space-based solar infrastructure. Every business strengthens the others. Economists call it a network effect. You call it trust, because competitors can copy software. But they can't copy decades of trust. Years become decades. Markets crash and recover. Presidents change. One thing never changes. Every morning, you ask the same question. What's the biggest problem nobody is solving? That's your unfair advantage. Money simply follows. At 52, your ownership alone exceeds $900 billion. Journalists publish countdown articles asking who will become the world's next trillionaire. You ignore them because the closer you get to extraordinary wealth, the less interesting the number becomes. Impact replaced income. Purpose replaced prestige. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, it happens. No fireworks. Your CFO walks in, places a tablet on your desk, and smiles. Congratulations. Combined with your long-term investments, your ownership is now worth $1 trillion. The first thing you feel isn't excitement. It's gratitude, because you know the number isn't really yours. It's the market's way of measuring how much value you've helped create. The internet loses its mind. Schools discuss your story. Podcasts debate your psychology. Everyone asks, how did you become a trillionaire? They're asking the wrong question. The better question is, what did you build that billions of people voluntarily chose to use? Because real wealth isn't stored in bank accounts. It's stored inside the lives you improve. $1 trillion isn't cash. It's trust. On your 60th birthday, you return to the apartment where everything began. Someone else now lives in your tiny room. You smile, because that's exactly how it should be. The dream was never about escaping that apartment. It was about proving that your starting point never determines your destination. Before leaving, you walk to the mailbox and slide a small notebook inside. No name, just one sentence. The world's biggest fortunes don't belong to the people who wanted money the most. They belong to the people who solved the world's biggest problems. Maybe, years from now, a struggling student will find it. Someone with student loans, a tiny apartment, and a dream that sounds ridiculous. Maybe they'll build something even greater. Maybe they'll replace you. And honestly, you hope they do, because history has never belonged to the richest person alive. It has always belonged to the person who created the most value for everyone else. So here's the truth. You didn't become the next trillionaire the day your net worth reached 13 digits. You became the next trillionaire the day you stopped chasing money and started chasing problems worth solving. Everything after that was simply compound interest.